Hello everyone, I'm Rashmi Bhandary and today I've got my student Arjun Bhandary, final year 2024 batch. He's also the placement president and he has cracked Robosoft, cleared Robosoft. So Arjun, one quick intro about yourself and also tell us a little bit about the eligibility of Robosoft.
Sure. So I'm Arjun from computer science and my current CGPA is 8.5 and this was the first company that I applied to, also happened to crack in. Robosoft's eligibility was 70% or 7 CGPA throughout your 10th grade all the way to your engineering. So it should have been 70% in 10th and 12th and then your current CGPA should be above 7. And the requirements for skills was only good communication and good problem solving skills. So they didn't emphasize on any coding technology or any software technologies that we should have hands-on experience in.
And open to which branches?
It was open to branches from computer science and IT. It was not open for EC or mechanical.
Alright. So then what are the rounds?
There were 3 rounds that happened for us. In the first round they gave us an aptitude question set. That was a very basic aptitude question that we have been solving in Sahyadri for placement or otherwise in any apti book what you get. It was the most basic of questions, and in fact the good thing about their portal was that they also had a calculator built in. So the calculation part was again easy, so it's just logical based. There was no questions as of such that were difficult.
But still only 40 cleared.
I think the criteria for the cutoff would have been higher, even though the paper was not difficult. It must have been the cutoff section. Now, it might be the top 40 students only that they wanted to retain. So
yeah, but whatever. So I just want to say, however, I don't know why all these students who come and say it was easy, it was easy. It's not easy. In the end, we got only 5 selects. Alright. So yes, it looks easy, but then even a small mistake here and there, you're out.
Yeah, I think and it is about, we get training from Sahyadri as well, and we also, like as students who are getting placed, we are always scared, so we do prepare on our own. So it's the preparation that speaks. It's not just the fact that the paper was easy. It looks easy because we have prepared for it, and it's the general preparation question. What I mean when I say easy is not that the paper was very simple and any 10th standard student can take it up. I mean anybody who has practiced aptitude for a year or so should be able to.
That's the hitch. Not everyone practices. So when they hear it is easy, they really think it is easy, so no need to practice. And most of the students start practicing in the 3rd year. The point of making these videos is not for the 3rd years or not in the final year. I'm telling you, all these videos that we are making is actually for the 1st year student and the 2nd year student. You work very hard, then of course it becomes easy, like for Arjun. Okay, go on.
True. So the aptitude paper was pretty simple. The questions were based on time, analysis, directions. So I think permutation and combination was also another easy topic that we had, because rather in other aptitude questions you will see permutation and combination to be a little challenging. Here it was not that difficult. You had simple seating arrangements with no hidden meanings or anything as of such. So the questions were easy to understand from the framing perspective, and the solutions wouldn't take you long because, like I said, they provided a scientific calculator. So distances, quantitative, time and your directions. These 4 questions were mainly what I saw in the paper, and there were 90 questions, 90 minutes. So duration wise 1 minute per question. I think that is a little overwhelming because the numbers were big. So as long as you can write it down quickly and you have practiced writing it down, it should have been an easy paper to crack.
Okay.
Aptitude round was easy. After aptitude we had shortlisted the 40 students like you said, and they had to come up for the technical interview. Now a technical round, that was again online coding, and that happened in HackerRank. But from the discussion, next year or for any junior that will be taking up from this video, for you there is an update, so it won't happen on HackerEarth or HackerRank anymore. They are building their own portal, which also I got to see and discuss with one of the hiring managers. So this portal will be where you take up the test. So there will be 3 shown test cases and 2 hidden test cases. The programming, there were 5 questions overall, and if you have practiced lead code, then it belongs to lead code easy segment. So these are again simple programming questions, but the test cases were difficult. And because only one of the test cases shown and 2 or 3 are hidden, you never know why it's going wrong. So debugging becomes difficult. So good practice in coding was definitely required. However, from the selected students, with a discussion from them, again the company did not reveal what the scores were. They only, in my interview they told me that I had done 22 or 25 cases because I love programming, so that was good for me. But for other candidates from the discussion, I figured out that they have only done like 2 out of 5 questions. So they are not expecting you to break all the 5 questions, but the 2 that you take up, it was again 1 hour or 1 hour 30 minute test. In that 1 hour 30 minutes, you should be focused on those 2 questions thoroughly. Make sure that all the 5 test cases pass. So
of the 5, how many did you attend?
I attempted all 5, which is my first 22.
So you know what, so see students, I just want to tell you at this point, this is for this year. Next year, it could be even more stringent. So if you think that if you have to do only 2, you know, the expectation in the company always changes, right? So it could also be 4 or 5.
Correct.
So, it's not that only 2, but 2 definitely thoroughly.
Yes.
But if you can do thoroughly, then naturally you're good to go for another 3.
Another 3, exactly.
Yes.
So even those other students who just did 2 are the 5 on 5, which means all 5 test cases, shown and unshown, everything was cleared. Other 3 doesn't mean they didn't attempt. They attempted it, they just didn't crack all 5 test cases. Maybe 2 or 3 test cases were passing. And some conditions that they forgot, they did not work out.
Okay.
And in the interview round, this is important that you don't copy, you should be ethical about this for sure, because in the interview they will ask you how you solved it. So it is very stupid of you if you end up just by hearting a few code lines and coming beforehand because you saw that it gets repeated in a lot of interviews. Don't do that. Practice all these questions thoroughly. They are easy once you understand the logic. And programming, I think for 3 years in engineering we have been practicing, and these are from coding batches only. So they're not taking mechanical or somebody who doesn't have proficiency in coding. So don't get confused.
They're not even taking EC students. So how should someone who's starting off, say in the first year or the second year, start practicing coding?
Well, like I said, lead code is a very good place to start.
You would recommend lead code?
I definitely recommend lead code because they have segmentation of easy, medium and hard. So once you can solve easy questions in say 30 minutes, you move on to mediums. Once you can solve mediums in 20-30 minutes, go on to hard. Once you can solve hard in 1 hour, get ready for Google. So that's the overall.
And then is what? Google what?
No, as in Google, as in you can crack Google interviews. Okay. They do DSA questions. They do DSA most of the time. So lead code is a good platform to get started. Lead code will give you a lot of exposure, and they have one of the biggest question banks. So you will see variety of questions, and once you can knock down those questions, I again repeat, coding is not difficult. The part is breaking down the logic. If your seniors or if your friends are telling you that the coding problem was difficult, they're not talking about how the code was written, they're talking about understanding the question. So once you see a lot of questions and how other people have attempted to solve it, primary for these companies that are coming to our campus, their primary goal is not how fast you solved it or how well you solved it, it is whether you could solve it or not. So I think you should focus on understanding those questions. So lead code, and then DSA problems from, there are a few books that I do recommend. So there is Java book by Mekaloff, that's a good book. So that is somewhere I saw a lot of DSA problems. Even there, I'm not talking about the implementation. Even if you don't understand implementation, it's fine. As long as you can read the question twice or thrice and understand what's asked, you are good to go for an interview.
And then after this, what was the next round?
After having your technical coding challenge, in 30 minutes they announced results and we had an interview. Now myself and Sannidhi, another member who got selected with me, we only had one round of interview with a senior technical trainer from their institute. So that was Karthik, and again the technical interview was easy. Easy in terms of technical knowledge. If you have your fundamentals very strong.
Students, please don't go by Arjun. Arjun is saying everything is easy. Alright. So please will you say what sort of questions we were asking so that they get a rough sort of an idea.
Of course. So again, it was just one round of technical for me and then HR immediately. These are like a combined interview.
Because he was too good. The others had 2 rounds.
Yes, because we had 22 test cases, which speaks for our proficiency in coding. So they didn't want to waste their time with logic on us, because we might have by hearted 1 or 2 questions, right? But you can't, there is no chance that all 5 questions you knew what are coming.
Yes.
So we didn't have to appear for 2 interviews technically, or for the technical round, we just had 1. But the others had to face 2 rounds of technical interview. So I'll walk you through all of them. So in the first round of technical interview, which I had to skip, that's where they just asked you to explain the same code that you have written earlier. It's like a bypass check, just to make sure that you didn't get lucky or you've not written if-else conditions and gotten through, which you shouldn't be doing. So you will have to explain it with a paper and pen, just the normal understanding of what the question is, break down the logic and maybe give a pseudo code for it. You don't even have to code it again, because you've coded and gotten in. No need to explain the code. If you can explain the logic, you are good to go. And once this round happens, then you move on to the senior technical partner. So what he brought us through was more in-depth fundamental questions like errors. And I know it sounds very easy because your code didn't have any errors, so you probably have not seen these errors. But anybody who has a good experience in coding has seen all sorts of errors, always. There is no way that you are getting 100% right answers all the time. If you are getting, then it means you are copying the code from somewhere, or you are seeing a solution and then you are trying your own. So without mistakes, it's impossible to learn programming. So he was asking about errors. For my interview completely, it was, have you seen course error? Because I introduced myself as a front-end developer, since I have experience in the past as a web developer, and I've also done meta certifications from Coursera and edX.org, etc. So they were just asking me about, have you seen course error? Have you seen file origin error? How did you solve this error? Have you ever encountered something else? Because the more errors that they talk about, it becomes clear to them that this guy has tried. If he has copied it from somewhere, if he has learned and done it, he wouldn't have seen the error. If he has gotten the error, it means he experimented something and it went wrong. And that's the only time developers go to Stack Overflow and everything and they check how to solve this error, how to solve this error. So that's, I think, one of the best ways to learn as well. Do projects on your own. Don't see other YouTube videos on projects and then start. First of all, you'll never get the output. 80 out of 100 times, the output is not there. So do the projects hand-on from scratch yourself, and I think that's a good way to know what went wrong, and hence you explore other right things. So good way to get started, of course. And besides that, in the technical interview, what he asked me was a couple of extra programming questions. Again, the programming questions, he didn't want the code, but he asked me to type them anyways. He didn't go through them. He just asked me to type because he had to take a parallel interview with another candidate. Meanwhile, what he was focusing on was the question itself. So the question was about arrays. This is where data structure came in. Like I said, in the first round, it was just whether or not you understand the question and you can knock it down. In the interview, it was not about just the question and whether you understand it. It was about how you want to implement it, because that's how you would stand out. Solving the problem is the first step. Of course, that's where you get into the company, and then experience comes in. But if you have experience, then they expect you to know what is the most efficient way to solve it. So that's what he was looking for from those answers. So in the technical rounds, it was also about efficiency. So he gave me a question about arrays and finding the third non-repeating number in the array. So I wrote a code for this and I solved the problem. So the code was optimal. It was with a good time complexity and space complexity, which are technical terms that the viewers will understand. So once that happens, he still asked me, that's great, this logic works and the solution is good, but what if it was the 20th? Then it wouldn't have been the optimum. So he again asked me to optimize an optimized code. So that is a little difficult for students who have not practiced it beforehand. So a little bit of a practice on all sort of approaches to the same question would have helped you get through. So I answered that question as well very well, and the whole round went smoothly. I think there was no question that I had to wait for or he had to wait for. But this is just an insight, since I'm on air, let me tell all the other students. When I went into the HR interview after this, the first question she asked me is, why are you so excited? And I was excited about the interview because it was the first company that I was attempting post-APT round, and it was offline on-campus drive, so I was excited about it. And she asked me, no, I don't mean why are you excited for Robosoft, I mean you had an interview with Karthik, how are you so excited? I was like, was I not supposed to be? She's like, no, he does that to people. Which means I get an idea that he was probably supposed to ask me more difficult questions, or luckily these questions happened to be in my domain, so I was able to take them.
So you were good at it, that's it.
Yeah, it happened to be completely in my domain. I think if he had asked me anywhere out of these questions, I was sure from the kind of questions he asked, he knew a lot.
No, let me tell you, when Arjun is speaking, obviously you come to know that he's good in his area. So naturally, that's why he could crack it.
Yeah, so it became easy. So the interviewer is always smart. So don't try to, we say put a cap. Don't try that with a technical view. For an HR, maybe someday, somewhere, some company it might work for you. But technical seniors, they are proficient in coding. Please don't think that they are product managers, they only talk to clients, they have no experience in coding. No, they have done it for 15-20 years is the reason that they became somewhere a senior in their firm, right? So they are good at coding. So the questions that he was throwing, they were pretty intense. Happened to be in my domain, so it went smoothly. So be prepared, whatever domain you choose. Now they won't try to fight you in their domain. They're not expecting you to know everything they know. But once you say you know something, they expect you to be thorough in it. So choose 2 to 3 topics that you are really good at. Now I said Java because we had a Java training. I said front-end because I have done certifications in front-end. So when I'm confident that these are the topics I know, anything that he asks beyond, I can be like, I've taken interest in this, but I am more into this. So then he doesn't care about the answer whether right or wrong. Then he's like, oh, this guy is interested beyond what his expertise are too. And many of the questions that he asked, I made sure that I answered it with, this is in our syllabus, therefore. And for some questions, I was like, this topic is not in our syllabus. However, I have taken my time to go through it, which is why I know. So when you know your syllabus well, it's an add-on. Many students can't name the syllabus. I saw an interview from one of the videos that Ma'am had made. So the question that he was asked was, what is your syllabus? And he couldn't name 5 subjects, but he helped, and then with the push he answered it. That's why he was in the video.
By the way, all the companies ask for the syllabus. They already have a copy of the syllabus.
Exactly.
If there's a change in the syllabus, they ask for that. So they know, in fact the students forget, like you rightly said. Okay. Then in the HR, what did she ask?
In the HR, it was kind of, because in the PPT also she said, if you pass through the technical, the HR, there is a very low chance of failure. You will do well anyways. So HR was just a discussion of whether we had any questions. And in HR interviews, I think there are only 2 situations. Either the HR leads the interview and you keep answering whatever she asks, or you take the lead from them and you start asking questions. So I love the second mode more. So for the first question, she asked me why Robosoft, why didn't I attend any other drives? I mean, I did attempt Deloitte, but then I explained that the case studies were so and so. And those discussions happened, and she was like, are you planning for any other company? Do you have any dream company? I was like, no, any company that gives growth, and that this is close by, this is Udupi, and I stay in Bangalore, so definitely a great company to start. And you always check Glassdoor reviews, so one of the questions from her was, you have checked the Glassdoor reviews, don't say no. You are attempting the drive, you have checked. If you have not attempted, if you have not seen the Glassdoor, it means you are not interested in the company clearly. So since you have checked, tell me if you have any concerns from the Glassdoor reviews. Now, they had a mixed review on Glassdoor, but it's a 4+ rated company, so overall the reviews were good. So I just asked a few things about growth and everything, but most of it is mentioned in the PPT, so no repetitive questions. Be good with the questions you ask. But once that phase got over and she had the confidence that I passed technical well, and because of course he relays a message before we move on to the second person. And this was in person. The technical happened virtual for us. For me, for them there were 2 technicals who had taken, and then they moved on to the virtual one. So the HR round was again easy, based on the fact that it's just questions about your personality. You can't be wrong about your personality. And I think as students in Sahyadri, we come from educated and good families. I don't think we have bad personalities getting shortlisted so far. So be honest, be upfront. Even the HR, she was from a teaching background, and I also have freelance as a teacher in a few places. So we were just talking about that for a while, and why she decided for the switch of career, and how you think.
Where did you freelance?
I worked in a company called True City and Camp K12. One is US based and one is Dubai based.
So how did that happen?
That happened through LinkedIn networking. So you have to keep networking.
So, and in which year?
First year. I started working.
Great. So if any first year is watching, so this is how you go about.
Yeah, you can be one of the youngest tax-paying citizens of your family. So
you're paying tax?
Yeah, I was paying tax.
Look at that. Look at it.
So yeah, that's important. You should always be ready to intern. There is no good and bad in a job, right? Because I became a web developer through teaching in Camp K12. Camp K12 CEO Anshul Bagi, he's an MIT graduate. So I happened to speak to him, and he said, okay, you're a young teacher. If you're into development, you're doing engineering, do you want to work as an intern as a web developer? So networking happens unknowingly as well. It's not that I approached him, I want to be a web developer, give me an opportunity. It happens in communications. So take up all opportunities. Even if it's event planning or something, take it up. You'll get to meet people who are doing software events maybe, right? So there's nothing big, nothing small. Take it up, whatever opportunities you are getting. Pay, not pay, that's a later thing to see. So,
alright. So what makes your profile so strong? What are the additional things that you have done what the regular student would not have done?
Well, first of all, the internships that we're talking about, right? So, talking with a lot of people, getting a lot of internships. Second would be certifications. I think in today's generation, it's all no textbook and PDFs. I belong to that category. I have never opened a single textbook, never went to the library from Sahyadri, maybe once or twice to solve doubts, but not to study for exams. But don't limit yourself to textbook learning. Your syllabus might be outdated, but it's not wrong. Your syllabus is still the foundation to something else, maybe something you are not interested in, but it is curated for some reason, right? So if you do a course or certification in it from a reputed organization, you can always consult your faculty, you can always consult your seniors about
which are the good ones.
I recommend taking up anything from any FANG community, that is Facebook now, Meta, so Mang, Amazon, Netflix, any of them. If they have a certification on Coursera, Udemy, do it. It's fine. And you have financial aid today, so don't worry about the money either. You can either financial aid it out, or I think it's 2,000, 3,000 rupees. It's not too much for a good certification. You'll get to learn a lot, and that also aligns with your syllabus at some point. So a few modules you would have learned.
So how many certifications have you done?
I have done 4 certifications so far. So I have an Oracle Java certification. Again, you need to pay 3 lakhs to get the actual certificate degree, but the course is free. So I've done the course and I have a course certification.
Yeah, that should be good.
So yeah, you learn enough, and your employer knows that if they pay the 3 lakhs, you can immediately get a Java certification, and a few companies need it for the client. So they have to tell the client that we have 10 Java certified developers. So now you are one of them that doesn't need to get trained. You just have to go take up an exam, which from an organization perspective is not a big deal. So being ready for those exams is also a big thing. So I have that. Then I have a Meta full stack development. I have a Google IT professional certification, and I have also taken up a few edX Python courses. So those are the overall courses that I've done.
So since when? First year, second year, third year?
From second year I started. I won't say that it's late even if you start in third year.
Yeah.
But when you are doing it, do it thoroughly. Don't do it for the certificate's sake, because the content that gets delivered in these courses, they're coming from real industry professionals. So it's a pretty good and solid course. So get started with any that has a 4+ rating on Udemy, Coursera, Udacity. You can go for edX, you can go for CyberSafe. These are all different websites that you should check out as a student. If you have not gotten a certification from any of the 5, you are definitely going to stand out from the crowd in the fact that, not positively stand out from the crowd. So don't do that. Get a certification, any kind of certification, and be thorough in what you have learned. So I think that's a good to go. That's few of the things that kept me away. And I've also done a lot of public speaking. So as you can see, I'm comfortable talking. I have done Toastmasters. I have given a lot of speeches in my lifetime. So all of these experiences also go and add on in the resume. And the resume, honestly, what I feel personally and what the interviews from other campus drives that I've volunteered for have told me is that it is never a plus point. A resume is never a plus point for the candidate. If you can go in without a resume, don't take a resume. The thing about resumes are that you might be wrong somewhere, or they might find one small pinpoint that you have exaggerated, and then it's going to get pinned on you. So it's going to be difficult for you. So don't lie on your resumes. Be honest, and whatever you write, make sure that you are very thorough about everything, from the mission statement all the way to details of what you've done. So those things, I think, curating that very well and having a fluent communication with everybody else about how you should be going for the interview, that's what made me stand out in the interview.
Okay, so then HR was then just a cakewalk, nothing much?
Yeah, again, like I said, for me it was a cakewalk because after a couple of questions from her end, I was able to take up my questions from there on. So, and it's not that I was dominating the interview, it was that she was engaged in the communication with me. So as long as it's in communication and not a question answer session,
yeah,
I think it goes well, and it answered a lot of my questions related to a career path, because all these internships, even though they are like 8 hours a day on weekends or something, they're not a full-time job. So someday I have to take up a job, and then that's where my whole career will be shaped, right? So why not ask her about what she looks at it as from a Robosoft employee perspective? What growth should an employee be expecting in the 3 years that it's a bond period of 3 years that they have. So in 3 years, why is it 3 years? Why? Of course, they discussed it in the PPT that there is a clientele, but I know that it's not the reason. The main reason is not just because, you know, one client will expect you for 3 years. No, as a fresher, nobody is expecting you to be there on the project forever. So they must have set some expectations on, in 3 years an employee learns so much. So there is a learning curve that they have seen and they have decided to have it, right? So now I know about this learning curve that they are expecting because I asked the question. So make sure that you have communicative questions where you can discuss openly about why you want to be with Robosoft, and she doesn't have to question you. Let them not throw questions. You know popular HR questions, right? You Google about top 50 interview questions for a fresher in IT and you get the list. So make sure that you frame those answers in a way that she doesn't have to ask the other 49 questions from her first. So get a good HR communication and be sure that you are very honest and ethical about everything that you speak. So that's pretty much about it, I think.
And anything to add on for your juniors, any tips to anyone who's watching, not only for Robosoft or anything else, if they're wanting to get into a good company, what should they be doing?
Well, I am from the 2024 batch, so recession right now. Don't skip opportunities. You will understand this if you are a third year plus student. You go on LinkedIn, you will hear about company career websites are not giving you good jobs. Take the job ID, go to LinkedIn, search for someone, get a referral, apply for the job. Doesn't work in 2024. You still get rejection mails, automated rejection mails. You are not getting calls. Even if you have somebody that you know in an organization, the call doesn't come. There is no guarantee for a job today, right? So don't skip on opportunities. Take any opportunity that you get. The package will increase based on how well you perform. Maybe 1 year of suffering, but 1 year of suffering at a low package that you feel is better than 1 year of unemployed suffering, right? Because then you have to explain a gap as well. So don't do something like that. Take your preparation seriously from the first year. Like any senior that you will talk to, they will tell you the same thing. I was late, right? I started late. I will also say that I started late because second, third year is when I got into it. But you look at videos of students who have got placed in the top companies that you are dreaming, Google and all, they won't say I started late. So that differentiates me from them. That's the reason that I'm sitting here for Robosoft and not Google, right? Or
so nice, such a valid point. It's such a valid point because anyone can actually crack any of those companies if you prepare well in advance.
Correct. So you should start early. And again, I think overall in the interview we discussed about all important certifications. We also discussed about all organizations that you can talk to, how to LinkedIn network. And if you go to YouTube nowadays and just see any motivational video on placement, you'll get all of these details. Take it seriously, start working on it. Don't just keep it as knowledge. There's the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? I think all freshers know that they should start preparing. So good knowledge, but nobody's wise enough to start on it. So take that seriously and get started with your preparation up early. Once you have prepared, do mock interviews. There are websites like Preplaced, Mentor.co. I'm not really sure about the website Mentor.co, something related. They mentor you about pre-placement. And then there is Big Interview by Google. So these are websites that will give you interview opportunities. I think Sahyadri had also shared a mail regarding, I forgot the name of.
Yeah, we are in partners with the organization which gives you these mock
interviews. Exactly.
And in spite of that, people have not taken it.
Yeah, so don't miss out. That's what I'm saying. Don't miss out on any opportunities.
Yes. And what you have mentioned right now, so these are all free channels?
Yes.
So is it okay for you to give me a link of those so that I can share it in the description?
I have already put it as a GitHub repo, and in that we have all
we'll also put up your GitHub repo.
Done.
And you also give me these channels. So
yeah, it is individually mentioned in the repo.
No, but forget it. You know how lazy people are.
Sure,
so please give it. I'll add all these if Arjun shares in the description.
Of course, it will be done.
Alright.
So I'll share this list.
Right.
So you can go to all these websites and check out different pre-placement interview talks. You can see what companies need, and go to Glassdoor and check interviews. They have a new section called interviews where you can see popular interview questions. Despite of all these materials being available, if you are not getting placed, then there is something seriously wrong with you.
Absolutely.
Right? So there is a lot of resources available today. Make best use of them. And now there is AI, so you don't have to ask your friend, how do I introduce myself? Put a good biodata summary of you and tell ChatGPT, give me a good introduction for so and so company. It checks the company's mission statement and it gives you a preparation. Talk it in front of a mirror and you are very good to go for any HR interview. So technical comes from practice, HR comes from AI tools and practice again. So you are overall ready to take this up anytime, I think.
Thank you, Arjun, very much. You see how good this person is. I think, Arjun, if you just continue like this, you'll go places. But the only thing is, of course, there are a lot of other things. But looking at it, you really are going to make it big in this world. Thank you very much. Congratulations, and it's bye from both of us.